Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another indie horror spotlight. Today I have with us, he's a director, and he has a movie you can find on Amazon and a lot of streaming services, and it's called Dating Horror Stories. I have with us Joshua Nelson. Joshua, welcome to the Horror Room.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on, man. And by the way, listen, stick around to the end, everyone, because this is going to be the trailer to Dating Horror Stories as well. So definitely stick around to the end to check that out. So, Joshua, tell us a little bit about Dating Horror Stories.
So, Dating Horror Stories is a film with three short films in it. Throwback to Creepshow, which is what inspired so many of these little trilogies. And it's basically about three different relationships that are all kind of fucked up. They all end in murder. They all end in deaths. It's kind of a dark comedy slash horror because there's something like darkly funny about all of them. But it's crazy. The term dating horror stories it's used all the time. People have them. They talk about their dating horror stories. And one day I said, that's got to be a title of a movie, right? And I looked, and there wasn't. There was no movie called Dating Horror Stories. So I said, shit, I need to write one. So I thought, let me just find like three interesting, unique, little twisted little stories and morph them into one film.
Love it, man. Because I mean, like, and I agree, man. We've all have had dating horror stories.
Oh yeah.
I kind of talk about it a little bit back in my dating days, when it came to online dating, and it's filled with nothing but horror stories.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I'm old, so we used to have like personal ads where you didn't even know what people looked like. So,
Oh, that's
it was
serious.
just like somebody would write, yeah, I'm into this, I'm into that. And you meet and you're just like, oh, hi. So that's really risky. At least
Yeah,
online, you can sort of see a photo.
yeah.
Yeah.
but like, yeah, you just don't. It's just hard to. The dating scene is terrifying right now because
Yeah.
you just don't know people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, now that I'm married and out of dating, phew, but I have kids, my daughter's in college, and people are crazy. And you worry. I worry. And I mean, it's great in a horror movie. I'll make people do horrible, sick things, but I don't want that to happen within my family, obviously.
Yeah.
So,
Now you're married now, but so when you were making this movie, did you use any of your own personal dating experiences?
no, those are too terrifying to be shown on screen. I would never do that to the world. It makes Terrifier look G-rated. Um, no, I did. I really just tried to come up with some things that maybe haven't been seen much, or just some ideas. And when you're shooting low budget, and we are no budget, um, sometimes you have to think of things like there's a magic theater right near where I live, and I'm friendly with the owners. So I'm like, well, I have access to a magic theater with like all these incredible props and like devices. So I said, well, the one story will be based as from a magician's point of view, and I went that route because without as all indie filmmakers know, without money, you're very limited. So you do
Now,
what you can.
and it's also too hard in indie to get eyes on your film. So I mean, you have to come up with that original idea.
Yeah. Well, this is why I'm here with you.
Yeah,
I'm so grateful because you give indie filmmakers a platform to let some other people know about it because it's really, you mentioned Tubi earlier. And I was so excited when some of my films got on Tubi, and then I'm looking, trying to find them, and there's thousands of films. I don't know how, a little bit way back, I'd go in a video store and I would just keep looking at covers. And
hmm
that's how, picked a movie, a horror movie. But there's little to no advertising for indie films, so it's really difficult.
and you get buried when it comes to Tubi. You get buried. Like it's like so. I mean, I watch a lot of Tubi. even before I did the show, I was always a Tubi fan. But it's hard right now to, because even since I started the show almost 2 years ago, Tubi has blown up.
Yeah.
And there's so many, like, even when I'm trying to do my Tubi Tuesday reviews, which I do on my show, like, I'm literally going through for like a good 20, 30 minutes before
Yes.
I actually click on something, because
Yes.
one of the things that I run into, the poster looks like one thing, and you get into the movie, and it has nothing to do with the fucking poster.
Okay. So this is the poster that was chosen,
Mhm.
and those people aren't in my film. So I'm also guilty of that. I remember, it's so funny you say that. So I used to make slightly bigger films, still low budget, but slightly bigger. And I made a film, and Lionsgate distributed it. So I was so happy. But they changed the title, and they called it Skinned Alive, and they have this mask of like a face hanging on barbed wire. No one in the film gets skinned alive. That mask's not in the movie. And I'm just like, guys, what is this? What movie is this? And so, yeah, because it's just about what can, it's almost like clickbait. What
Yeah.
can we look at and that looks good? And then the movie's nothing like that, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's the absolute worst. But that's something that, back in the video store days, only thing we had to, especially if you're looking for horror, most of the movies that were in video stores were B movie indie horror
Right.
movies, and you base everything off of the cover,
Yeah.
and it was like playing a game of Russian roulette, because
Yeah.
you didn't know if this movie was going to be good or not, and you're stuck with it.
Right. Right. You had that rental, and that was
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And you had no choice but to watch that motherfucker all the way through.
Right. And you do, and you
Yeah.
just watch it, and this is horrible, and you fast forward a little.
Uh,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
TV, when it comes to streaming service, you can just back out 2 minutes in, and yeah. So I mean, it is tough, and I mean, and listen, that's why I have this platform, because there's so many great indie horror filmmakers, and they're
Right.
bringing brand new ideas, but they're getting
Right.
stuck in the pool,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, it's a strange time, because it's never, due to technology, it's never been easier for people to make their own films. It's never been more doable, and like, you can make it with no money.
yeah.
But you now, it's a grain of sand on a beach. Like, how are people going to find you? It's hard.
Mhm. And that's the scary part about it. Anybody can make a movie.
And they do. And they do. Yeah, but that's true.
Yeah, because one of the things when I started the show, I was like, "Damn, I'm gonna do indie horror filmmakers." But at some point, I'm gonna run out. I'm gonna run out of indie horror film.
No, you're not.
I haven't. Like a new one pops up every single day. Like
Yeah.
20 of them do. So like this
Yeah.
is like a thing now. So I should be doing this for another 20 years, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully. But it's true. We my wife and I run several film festivals. And sometimes we think like, "Oh, I wonder if, hope we get submissions." They come, they come, they come, they come, they come. People just, yeah, there's a lot of filmmakers out there.
Why do you think that is? I mean, besides it's easier, why do you think so many people are? I mean, what it's not even coming to films. I interview a lot of authors, and a lot of
Right.
people are now just out of the blue wake up one day, but like, hey, I want to write a horror book.
Right, right. I think maybe that there's always been this amount of creative people really longing to do this, but only in the past 10, 15 years, 20 years maybe, has it been this accessible. I mean, you can get a $2,000 camera, and you can make a film. People make
Mhm.
films on their iPhones.
Yep.
You couldn't do that in the 80s, and that you couldn't. You needed
Yeah.
really equipment. You needed expensive equipment. And other than porn, if you had a
Yeah.
little camcorder, you weren't really making a horror movie that could get distribution or get
Mhm.
into Blockbuster or anything. And that world has changed. So maybe there's always been this amount of talented, creative people. They just never had a path forward like they do now.
So I never asked anybody this question before, but what do you think it would have looked like if making horror movies were so accessible like it is now in the VHS video store era?
Hmm.
What would that look like if streaming services wasn't around and we were still stuck in VHS?
Right. Wow. You mean like from a quality level? Or if it was like what we have now then?
What we have now,
I
then.
think there'd be so many Friday the 13th movies. And I think there would just be like, there would be that bandwagon of like masked slasher, like overboard, but it would mainly be in people's basements and backyards. And it would be that vein because that's what was so big back then. Once that dam broke open of like masked slasher movies, which was huge, I think it would be that, but at a slightly lower quality level.
And I'm pretty sure VH. I don't know. Would Blockbuster and small? I don't think Blockbuster would have jumped on and bought a lot of those movies, but I think like
No,
small
because they were
mom and
getting
pop.
they were getting fairly. I mean, you had to have some level of production value and even a name to get into Blockbuster because they had only so much shelf space.
But like, I think you could get into the small mom and pop video stores.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
maybe. Hopefully.
hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So when it comes to horror right now,
Yes.
I've always said that horror goes in waves, right? Where it has its ups, it has its downs. You look at, you talk about the Friday the 13th, where it went through a whole bunch of fucking slashers.
Yep.
Halloween started off, and then horror died off, and then Scream kind of rejuvenated
Yes.
horror for a little bit,
Correct.
and then we had a whole bunch of Scream knockoffs for several years, and then it
Yeah.
died, and the Blair Witch Project brought it back.
And then the whole bunch of found footage
Yep.
films came out. Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
So right now, there is this weird trend that I see that's going on, and that is the public domain trend. How do you feel about that?
Ugh. I feel like I haven't seen anything to make me excited that there's that accessibility to it. You're talking about like the Winnie
Like
the
the Winnie
Pooh
the
and the Mickey
Pooh,
Mouse. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it looks like people were just waiting for this and they're just jumping on it. And maybe I haven't seen enough of them. And conceptually, I guess it's kind of funny and cool sometimes, but I haven't seen anything that made me think like, oh yes. I also don't know how Disney's able to not stop it. Like, I don't know how they're allowing this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is an odd trend coming through now. Maybe I
Yeah.
just need to see one really good one for me to kind of be on board.
But that's what, because I've watched the Winnie the Pooh and I bash that movie all the time. And I don't bash indie horror filmmakers, but I have to bash that movie because it's definitely a cash grab.
Right.
And I did a review of the Mickey Mouse movie that's on Tubi. And that movie's, and I bash that movie. It's absolutely horrible.
Mhm.
And it's definitely like a cash grab
Right.
clickbait because it's like you're like Winnie the Pooh, Mickey Mouse. So like as an audience, you think Mickey Mouse is going to be doing some Mickey Mouse shit. Once again, I don't know what Mickey Mouse does, but some
Right.
cool Winnie the Pooh, Mickey Mouse kills,
Right.
or Winnie the Pooh kills. And no, it's just some guy wearing a Mickey Mouse.
Right. It kind of
killing people.
defeats the point of it. It's silly. Like I really thought like, oh, they're gonna have like Winnie the Pooh killing people. Like they're gonna have the mouse insane, but not
Mhm.
just a mask like some mascot on 42nd Street who tries to make you take a picture with them because that's what it is. It's like just a bad costume. And look, I
Mhm.
come from a world where most of the films I make have such a low budget that we're so limited in what we can do. And people bash you just for that sometimes. But when you have enough money to actually make something with a premise like a crazed Mickey Mouse, do it right. Do it
Yeah.
better.
Have
You
at least a
know?
Mickey Mouse voice, you know?
Yeah, something to play into it. They're just making people. They're literally making you see the cover or see
Hmm.
the poster and go and regret it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other one too, I'm getting a little tired of is the crack fill in the blank. Cocaine Bear came out, and now
Oh,
it's meth
I,
and crack and
yeah.
heroin and
I don't even like. Cocaine Bear was a unique, funny, silly thing.
yeah.
I never thought they would do more of them. And you're right. There's so many. Just drug animal, and like they must be selling. I mean, I can't even bring myself to watch them.
I tried to
But
watch one, and I couldn't finish it.
yeah.
I think it was Cocaine Shark. It was the one I watched. I think it was Cocaine, or
Yeah.
yeah, and
Well,
I
do you
couldn't.
remember when, like, I don't remember the name of the company, but a movie would come out and then they would release the low budget version with a similar title,
Yes.
like Godzilla vs. Kong became like Ape vs.
Yeah.
Monster. And like and parents would like see it and the kids would want it and then it would not be the same thing.
1%. Yes.
Yeah, that's come on.
I remember. I'm trying to think of what it was, and my mom brought me home like the bad knockoff of one of these
That
movies.
knockoff. Yeah.
And I was like, Mom, I don't want to. This is
Right.
this is not the movie. Like
Right.
it was like child's play, but it was like kids play or something like
Right.
that. And like it was just a
So bad.
bad
It's like if
knockoff.
you want like Frosted Flakes and she brings home like Stop and Shop brand like flakes of corn.
Yeah.
It's like what?
It's not the same thing.
It's not the
It's
same
not.
thing. No,
It's not the same thing.
not at all.
So going back to what I was saying, do you think we're about to get to that downfall of horror where something's going to have to pull horror back out?
I'll tell you why I don't. I think there has been such an influx of interesting creative horror. I think in a time where Terrifier 3 takes the number one spot in the country at the box office, in a time where a movie like The Substance is getting Academy Award nominations, um, I have a much more positive view of it. I mean, I don't really like everything Blumhouse does because I'm just like, are you kidding? But and of course, I'm talking about higher budget horror, but I'll make my point. When higher budget horror is coming in and it's being respected, the way The Substance is, the way Heretic is, the way, I mean, personally, when I saw Smile 2, which I saw because a friend of mine, Jeremy Sellenfriend, worked on all the effects, because I wasn't going to see Smile 2. I was so my profession is that I'm an acting teacher. I was so blown away by Naomi Scott's performance, like unbelievable. And like this good acting in horror films and this, respect from the Hollywood, I think it's bringing a different light to it. So ideally, the lower budget stuff may be a little more respected. Horror never gets respect. Mia Goth did Pearl, should have been nominated for an Academy Award,
100%.
wasn't. Naomi Scott, brilliant. Nell Tiger Free in the First Omen. These performances
Amazing
are
movie.
on par with any top Hollywood actresses. So if they can gain more respect, then it may be more welcome and not so like frowned upon. And then hopefully it will not die down because I hate when horror dies down.
Yeah, because it seems like it happens like every 5 years. Like you
Yeah.
have all of these great films, and
Yeah.
then it just dies.
Yeah.
And like I mean, do you remember like a couple of years ago? Well, a couple of years ago, but The Walking Dead was so fucking big. It was
Yes.
huge,
Yes.
and it drove people who normally were into horror into the horror genre.
Yes, absolutely. It really
and
did.
then horror died. Like I don't know if because The Walking Dead stayed too long or what, but like
Yeah,
it immediately
there
died for a while.
definitely are ebbs and flows. The one thing, and I make a lot of films with my school because I want my students to learn how to get in front of a camera and such. And a lot of the movies I make are horror films, and everyone's like, "Oh, can we just please make a romantic comedy?" And I say no, because you can't sell a no-name, no-budget romantic comedy
Yeah.
or a no-name drama film, but you can get a horror film out there because there's always the audience.
Hmm.
What you're saying is true. It does come in waves of quality and lack of quality, but there's always a hunger for it. There's always a demand for horror, for indie horror, for B movie horror, for slasher films. It's the one genre that doesn't need celebrities.
Yeah.
If you can't make a drama and try and get it out, and people say who's in it, but you make a horror movie, nobody cares who's in it. They just want to is it good? Is it bloody?
They care about the villain.
Yes, they
Like
care about the villain.
horror is the only genre where the villain is the
It's the star.
lead star. Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't have to know his name. You don't have to see his
Hmm.
face or her face. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
That's true. It's very interesting.
All right. So what's one indie horror movie that you have seen recently that you think that people don't necessarily know about that you're like people definitely need to be on the radar?
So I, the one I saw recently that I thought was great. I didn't hear about it, but it seems like everyone else did. Was Hell House LLC, the first
Yes.
one? The
Hmm.
first one. I was like, wow, this is like really well done.
Hmm.
I didn't. We were talking about these genres. I didn't know that haunted attractions being real was a subgenre until I saw all these indie movies about like Halloween haunts that have real killings going on, and there's like so many of them, um, which I was shocked by. But I found that one to be really creepy, really good. Are you
If
familiar with
you
that?
yes,
Yeah, and then I
I'm
found out there's like 6 sequels, so I'm really
yeah.
behind. Sorry.
But if you like that one, there's one shit. So
The House
I
is
did a
October built. That one.
no. It's I did a Tuesday review of it a couple months ago, and it's called the Bundy Manor. Bundy
Bundy.
Manor,
Okay.
and it's on Tubi, and
Okay.
it's that same feel where it's a haunted attraction and shit is hitting the fan.
Right. I like that. I like that though.
Yeah.
I think it's those places are perfect because you're walking through where people are pretending to die and kill you. It's so logical that that's where a horror movie would be set, because you could kill someone and people would watch and say, "Wow, that looks so real."
Hmm.
It's perfect.
And everybody else is screaming. So
And
like you hear
everybody
a
else is
scream,
screaming, so who would know? Who would call a
yeah.
cop when you see somebody running with blood? It's genius. I'm just mad that I never thought of it years ago. I wish I did.
Now,
Wish I did.
what's a horror story that you thought about, Joshua, and you're like, this is a great horror story, and you started putting it out there, and then like you're like, and you finally did your research, and you're like, fuck, this has been done like 20 million
Oh
times.
man. Ah, you say that, and it rekindles in me that feeling where I can't even think of the specifics, but yes, I have thought of something that I thought was original and that I thought was all mine, and then I look and it's like, oh wait, someone made that? How? It was in my head. And I don't know the specifics, but yes. And look, I feel at some point people steal a little something from everything, and I'm the first to admit when I steal from classic 70s or 80s horror movie like concepts. I do it all the time. But I mean, I wouldn't steal some if I have a straight up idea and someone's done it, then I just say, okay, you beat me to it. And I wish I could remember the specifics, but it's happened numerous times where I think I'm this creative genius, and then I see somebody's already made it, and I say, oh, maybe I'm not such a genius. Maybe I'm just kind of not so
Because
great.
I mean, I've done the same thing. I've had a nightmare or something. I'm like, oh my god, that's a really good horror story. And I was
Right.
like, this is genius. And then I just go online and it's been done like 100 times. So I'm like,
Right.
oh shit.
Right. It's true. I'll tell you something. I was in a heavy metal band for many years, and I once had this idea for a song, and I wrote the whole song, and it was a Black Sabbath song, even the same lyrics. It was the same lyrics. Like I must have heard it and thought I wrote it, and I was so proud of myself, and it was already written, like the same title. Yeah, so
But,
maybe yeah.
but it's hard to be original. I mean, okay, it's not hard to be original. But it's hard to come up with an original concept because everything has been done before, but you can add your own flavor to it.
Right, and that's kind of what I try to do in Dating Horror Stories and a couple of my prior films. I tried to give my own spin on it. You know, like I did a vampire film 2 years ago where they felt guilty and they went to like a therapy sessions because they didn't want to kill. And I said, "Oh, that's an interesting spin. Let's see how that goes." And in Dating Horror Stories, like I really tried to come up with a few things that people had not seen, concepts that I'm like, "Well, I've never heard of this, so let me try and do it." And it's difficult because like, what hasn't been done?
Yeah.
You know, Damien Leone just sits at home and thinks to himself, "Okay, what kill has no one seen?" You know, what can I chop off that hasn't been chopped off?
Yes.
And it's yeah.
But like, and you were talking about Damien Leone. I'm like, fuck, like you killed children in the last one, like, and I'm like, and a baby,
Which has been done though.
Yes.
Which has been done several times before. It just got in a different notoriety this time.
Yeah. I'm like, well, how else can you kill people? You know? That's going to make us.
He finds a way.
Yeah, he does.
He finds a way. You make enough money, you find that way.
He does.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. But I couldn't. But then you're going down a deep path. If I'm sitting here, like, I can imagine sitting here, like, well, how can I kill somebody?
Right. You don't want to take it too far because then you've taken it too far. Well, I mean, I guess there's a line you don't want to cross, but you want to stay creative.
Have you ever had a kill in mind that you were like, this is too far?
I'll tell you what. So I made a film. It was called Aunt Rose. And I had a few interesting kills. I had one where cut open a stripper's breast and pulled out her implant.
Nice.
And then I had one where a girl stuffed a knife into another girl's mouth, and I'm like, oh, these are kind of brutal, and I haven't seen them. And then Anchor Bay cut them out when they distributed the film. They cut them out, so people would review it and be like, "Oh, the kills were lame." I'm like, "No, they weren't. They were cool." But the distributor edited them out. They didn't even ask. Once they picked up the film, they just did what they want. They changed the title, and they edited out the violence. I'm like, but that's the whole point of why people are watching this. So, yeah, I came up with a few, and they took them away from me. Yeah.
And Damien Leone is listening right now. And he's writing it down.
Nobody's taking nothing away from him.
Breast implant now. Yeah.
Right. Someone's going to do that. Watch. Someone's going to do that now. No. And I'll say, no, I thought of it. They'll be like, yeah, right.
See, but they're not going to do breast implants. They're going to do ass implants because women are getting ass implants now. That's going to be the kill.
That would be an interesting one. I've never seen that one. You might be onto something. I've never seen that one.
All right, Josh. So I'm gonna ask you 3 random horror questions. These are your personal opinions.
Yes.
Okay. So you can't answer them wrong. All right. First question: who is on your Mount Rushmore of horror villains?
Horror villains?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So it may sound cliche, but if I did 4, I would do Michael Myers. I would do Freddy Krueger. I would do Pinhead, and I would do Linda Blair because she's the scariest. The Exorcist still to this day the scariest I've ever seen. Yeah, and of course I feel bad because there's so many that could be on there. But those would be my 4 like icons.
Because Pinhead is absolutely terrifying, as
Yeah,
well
love him.
as Wonder Boy. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Which, if someone said, okay, we're thank God we've stopped doing reboots for a while, but if somebody said right now, Joshua, we're going to give you an IP to reboot, classic IP, which one would it be?
I would redo Mother's Day. I don't know
Why
if you
Mother's
saw
Day?
Mother's Day.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that film so much. It was so original and creative, and I thought the acting was great, and the concept that these 2 hick boys were so brutal and violent, but they were just kids trying to impress their mother, and their mother was sicker than all of them. I mean, I wouldn't want to redo it because I think it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if I had a shot to redo it, I would love to, because it's one of those lower budget 80s horror films that stayed with me forever. Yeah. And as I'm saying this, I'm going to add a second one, would be the 1980 film Maniac. Because I also feel, I mean, I think that was sort of redone with Elijah Wood, but not.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think I could ever make something better, because to me, that's the best there is. As far as a low budget, gritty 80s slasher film, I think Maniac is the top of the list. But given an opportunity in today's world to have that kind of lunatic stalking the streets of New York, I would love to do that as well.
See, those are good ones.
Yeah.
And Mother's Day, that was a Trauma film, wasn't it?
No. Trauma re-released it.
Okay.
It was made by Charles Kaufman, who's Lloyd Kaufman, the head of Trauma's brother.
Okay.
So it's in the Trauma family, and then Trauma distributed it, but Trauma didn't make it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the ones I saw in the 80s that really disturbed me. It sticks with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure. Final question. Dating horror stories. If someone gave you an extra $100,000, somebody give you $100,000 onto your budget, what is one thing that you would have added to the movie?
Oh my God. So one of the stories in Dating Horror Stories involves, you know what eating champions are? Like Joey Chestnut is the hot dog eating.
Yep.
Well, one of them is about an underground eating championship where it's all about cannibalism. It's who can eat the most human body parts. And without, if I had a budget, if you gave me $100,000, I would turn that into mind-blowing scenes of gore and disgust. It was hard with no money. We had to just rely on the concept and a little bit of visual, but I would turn that into just, you see zombies ripping people up. You don't normally see normal people doing it in a contest. So I would have put it all to that and made it so cringy that it went viral.
So would the people be alive while they're getting eaten?
In the film now, they take people, they cut them up, and they eat the body parts. But I think alive would be that'd be like a great tiebreaker. It's a sick concept. It's a sick concept. I don't know alive. Maybe both. Depending on how I use that money, probably both.
Watch. Have you seen Human Hibachi?
Human Hibachi, no.
Watch that. It's a found footage series. Part 3 is being made right now, and I am I'm a sponsor of Part 3, so I bought in as a sponsor on Part 3.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a similar concept, but it's about a cult that does that shit.
Got it. Cool.
All right, Joshua, where can one find you, my friend?
First, let me just thank you. First of all, these are great questions. I love talking horror. I've been a horror fan my entire life. So to be on a podcast or a webisode like this, where somebody's asking me who your horror Mount Rushmore, what an awesome question. But then when it's over, I'll think, oh no, I should have said him. Oh, I should have said her. I am not so much out there as much as my films, and I have a few out on Tubi right now. One is called "The Things We Cannot Change," and one is called "Aware of the Wolf," and of course, "Dating Horror Stories." And I know you're going to put the trailer at the end, and I thank you for that.
Yeah.
It's streaming right now on Amazon, and I just want to thank you so much because you will give a platform for indie filmmakers to let people know about these films that they might not otherwise, and that is so important. I cannot tell you how important it is what you're doing. Thank you.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. And like, I mean, and that's what, because I'm listen, I grew up on this shit, man. I grew up on indie horror, and even back then, like, there wasn't a lot. The way you found out about an indie horror movie for me was watching trailers. You know what I mean? You were watching trailers, you were like, oh my goodness, Demonic Toys, that looks awesome, you know?
Yeah, exactly,
and,
yes.
And there's no trailers anymore. There's no way to find good indie horror movies. Like,
it's true.
I mean, I kind of wish the streaming services would show, like, I click on Dating Horror Stories, and there's like 3 trailers for like some of your other movies. Like, that would make sense.
Right. That'd be nice. But yeah, you're right. So you said you do like a Tubi Tuesday. You come on and you say this was great. I'll be like, oh, great, I found something, and I'll go look
100%.
for it. You know, and that's great.
And every once in a while, I do come on and say this is a piece of shit, and then like,
I can avoid it.
Yeah.
You got to be honest. You got to be honest.
It's only been a few times. It's only been a few times, but like, yeah. But Mousetrap, the Mickey Mouse is a piece of shit. So that's stay far away from that movie. But do you know the fucked up thing about that movie? That movie has a budget. It has a budget. I mean, if you look at the cinematography and everything in that movie, it has a budget.
Right.
And I'm like, well, how can you miss this? So, and I see so many filmmakers who have no budget.
Yeah.
And they make such a great movie.
And you're so right. That's the thing. Like, people bash indie horror. You got to understand, like, we're making movies for like a couple $1,000s. We have a few days. Like, we don't really have the means. When you have money, there's no excuse. There's no excuse to put out shit.
None. At that point, I mean, at that point, you're just being lazy.
Yep, I agree. They know they're going to get their money, so they just throw something together and rely on the poster. And
because I put the review for Mousetrap, and I was shocked on how many people said this movie is a piece of shit. Yep, you're great, piece of shit. So that means a lot of people watch a shitty movie.
That's it, though. They're getting every time someone streams it or buys that DVD or something, they're getting their money, and that's kind of what they care about. I mean, Hollywood does it all the time. Hollywood just puts out a sequel that nobody cares about. They know it's bad, but they know people will go.
Blumhouse does it all the time. Blumhouse will put shitty movies. I say that Blumhouse used to put good stuff out there, but it's like 1 out of every 5 Blumhouse movies are good.
And you know how much money they have.
Yes, but people flock to because they see Blumhouse.
Correct.
And it's a horror movie, and they flock to the theaters to go see Swim Fan or a swimming movie or something, and it's a piece of shit. And but I think that's going to bite Blumhouse in the ass eventually
because eventually you just like, another Blumhouse film, it's going to suck, and then you don't go, and that's when they're going to have to start making good things because they're going to drop out. Yeah. For sure.
Joshua, this was so much fun, man.
Thank you, Travis. It has absolutely been my pleasure. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Listen, anytime, man, anytime. And when Dating Horror Story goes up on Tubi, there will be a Tubi Tuesday review.
Terrific. Great. I appreciate that.
But right now, get your ass over to Amazon and watch it.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to the Horror Rim. I'm Travis Bruce, and that's my man, Joshua Nelson.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
I just hate everything about dating. Meeting people online or in person and trying to figure out, are they all lunatics?
There's this underground challenge.
What the fuck? This exists?
Maybe it's cheesy that I brought you to where I'm performing tonight, but magic is what I do.
and I really wanted you to see that.
I want you to help me find Supply.
Where do I find dead bodies?
Find people and kill them. Do I need to spell it out for you?
Are you sure I have nothing to worry about?
Absolutely not. I can do anything I set my mind to. I have the power to do whatever I want. To fail is to give up. To fail is to give up. To fail is to give up. To fail is to give up, and I will not give up.
You know what? I think I have to give this relationship my blessing.
To not being psycho.